And welcome to another episode of the Market Value Chart Show, right here at 6 Scale Cantina. So some Star Wars Hot Toys action figures are now in the $500 tier range, the $600 tier range. You got 2-packs in the $800 tier range, the $900 tier range. So what is the possibility for Hot Toys to reissue some of these figures or give us a different version of them? We're going to go ahead and take a look at that within this episode. We're also going to go ahead and take a look at what are the next probable announcements from Hot Toys for Star Wars. We're going to take a look at The Mandalorian, the prequels, Clone Wars, a couple of others. Let's dive into it right now. All right, and welcome everybody to another episode of the Market Value Chart Show right here at 6 Scale Cantina. So before we dive into this episode, please go ahead and book your calendars for the upcoming live stream of the Market Value Chart Show this coming Saturday, March 27th at 6 p.m. Eastern. Yes, we are going to be back for our second live stream episode. I am so excited. We're going to have Nate from Geekin' Out back in the Cantina. We're going to have Mike from the Action Figure Cave back in the Cantina. So go ahead and book your calendar, 6 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, March 27th. Really looking forward to hanging with everybody there for sure. So, going into this episode, there are quite a few Star Wars Hot Toys figures now that are in the high $400 tier range, the $500 tier range, and the $600 tier range. So I get a lot of questions all the time. Hey, do you think Hot Toys is going to go ahead and reissue some of these figures? And I think for some of them, there are possibilities for either a reissue or a different version of these characters for sure. So let's go ahead and get into this episode. We're going to go first to 6scalecantina.com and let's take a look at a few within the biggest movers section first. So, first on the list that you see in the biggest movers section, the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian. And you have to wonder, is it possible that Hot Toys would just do a straight reissue of this figure in the near future? And I think that there is a couple of parts to this question that we need to dive into first to really analyze it. So, first of all, I do think that this character has a very high potential to show up again in Season 3 of The Mandalorian. The dynamic between Din Djarin and Bo-Katan and the whole Mandalore situation really shows me that the faction that the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian is in is going to make an appearance and get involved in some way, shape, or form. And I think that that is a opportunity for Hot Toys to come out with a different variation of the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian. When and if this character shows up again in Season 3 or future seasons, it can have some different pieces, marks, accessories to its armor, much like Din Djarin had from Season 1 to Season 2. So, you could also, for whatever reason and however the story turns out, have a head sculpt with this Heavy Infantry Mandalorian. But I think that Hot Toys would be very savvy in this regard, because all of the collectors that have picked this up now, they're not going to go ahead and just buy a reissue of this figure straight up. We already have the figure, unless, they sold it and they want it back, but with a different variation. Not only would you get collectors that have missed out on the retail price of this figure at this point, but you would also get a segment of collectors that have this version of the figure who may want a second variation of this figure, much like some collectors do with Iron Man or with the Boba Fetts and so on and so forth. So I think that they would be very smart in that regard and give us a reissue with some tweaks. So, if this character does show up again in the Mandalorian series or some other Disney Plus show as well, or instead, then I think yes, there is a possibility. It is possible for this to be reissued again, but I think if it does, it will be a variation and not be the same one. Let's go back to 6scalecantina.com and we'll go right to Cody. So, is it possible that Hot Toys would reissue this Commander Cody like they did with the Yoda from Attack of the Clones? Or how about the Empire Strikes Back Darth Vader? Or the Deluxe Boba Fett from the Empire Strikes Back in the Empire Strikes Back 40th anniversary packaging? They reissued those figures. Is it possible they would reissue this Cody? And I think that there are some things to consider here as well. You have a lot of clones that I believe that Hot Toys is going to be coming out with very soon. And to straight reissue Cody, when you have Rex coming out, and they're going to come out with different clones, including, I think, figures such as, Wolf. And I think that is going to be the priority at this point, rather than straight coming back with this figure. So, do I think it's possible in the distant future? Yes. Do I think it's possible in the short term? I think in the short term, more emphasis is going to be on different variations of clones, and certainly some commanders, or where it's appropriate to give us a head sculpt like this Wolf over here. I think that is going to take precedent in the short term rather than giving a straight reissue of Commander Cody. So that's where I think that one is going. And if they went ahead and in the distant future reissued this figure, I think it would have the same effect that's what's happened with the Attack of the Clones Yoda. This is a popular enough character, and a character that's going to get propelled more within the secondary market, not only with Captain Rex that's going to be coming out soon, but all of the other Clone Wars figures and figures from that timeline and possible other prequel figures that are going to come out is going to create more demand for Cody. So, I do think that even if they did reissue this figure, sure, it would take a drop within the secondary market, just like that Attack of the Clones Yoda did. But now, as you can see, now that the second issue has gone on waitlist and sold out, now it's back up again, and quite frankly, higher than when it was before. Let's go ahead and go back to the biggest mover section. Let's go ahead and look at Grand Moff Tarkin. You see him there, basically in the middle of your screen with Darth Vader. Is it possible that Hot Toys would reissue this Grand Moff Tarkin? I don't think the A New Hope version. I think having a slight variation of this figure as a Rogue One figure could be a strong possibility in the near future. You have to remember, Grand Moff Tarkin was in Rogue One. And again, they are coming out with new Rogue One figures. Couple of troopers anyway. So, it would be an opportunity for Hot Toys, certainly, to go ahead and come out with this figure again, and perhaps with a couple of slight tweaks. Now, not only is he in A New Hope and Rogue One, but you also have Grand Moff Tarkin now in The Bad Batch. We've seen him on the preview. So it's an opportunity, all in all, for Hot Toys to say, okay, whether it's a Bad Batch version, they've been using, like with the Clone Wars releases, real head sculpts, like you have the one that's going to be coming out with Obi-Wan. They used that head sculpt, like from Revenge of the Sith. You see the Clone Wars Anakin. That's up on pre-orders right now, and that is also a Revenge of the Sith Anakin head sculpt. So I would think that they would certainly give us, with this Bad Batch version, a a Peter Cushing head sculpt. So do I think that there is a probability that Hot Toys would give us another variation, another version of this Grand Moff Tarkin? You betcha. I think it's coming. So let's go ahead and look at some potential other figures. And I'm going to go to the market value chart. And here's Darkside Anakin. I get so many questions on this one. $633 right now for Darkside Anakin. And I do think it is possible that this will trend up to the $700 tier range. I think it is very possible that that is going to happen this year, for sure. So you have to wonder with this figure, would Hot Toys go ahead and reissue this figure? And I think that there are some variables that you need to factor in before you go ahead and really think this through. This particular figure you already have up on pre-order right now. This Clone Wars version of Anakin. And without the stap, $260 retail price. So would Hot Toys right now come up with either of the Revenge of the Sith Anakins to compete with this Clone Wars Anakin during this time? No, they will not. So in the short term, that's not going to happen. And I don't think that those particular figures in any way perform that well at first. And now they're highly sought after within the secondary market. I think where you're getting a reissue, first of all, in my view, is right here. This Clone Wars version of Anakin. For a lot of collectors, there's going to be some collectors that are going to be like, hey, I'm going to go ahead, once I get this, or once the final production photos come out, I'm going to go ahead and sell my Darkside Anakin so that I can get 2 or 3 figures with that figure, and I've got Anakin back in my collection. That'll be some collectors. You're going to get other collectors that are going to be like, here's another version of Anakin. I'm going to add that to my Anakin collection. You're going to get both. But for some collectors that don't have an Anakin within their collection, and you're struggling, hey, it's so hard to get the Darkside Anakin. I just can't. It's so high priced, and then it's also so hard to get just the regular Revenge of the Sith Anakin. May I suggest getting and pre-ordering this Clone Wars Anakin, because in a way, this is a reissue. It just has different, it's the same head sculpt. Of course, it's a different version, okay? But it's not a totally new head sculpt. So that's number one. Number two, they're coming out with the Obi-Wan series, and Hayden Christensen is signed to it. And would Hot Toys just say, wow, let's go ahead and reissue this now? It's relevant again. Or would they try and get collectors that already have this figure to perhaps buy a different variation of a Darkside Anakin? Perhaps an Anakin, a Darth Vader from Revenge of the Sith, that has the Hayden Christensen head sculpt, like when he was on the medical bed there after he had the fight with Obi-Wan, and he's going to look that way in a sense in the Obi-Wan series. Are they going to go ahead and release that type of Darth Vader figure? Is there going to be flashbacks, whether from that series with conversations of Obi-Wan and Anakin from before those events, or even when Grogu was rescued from the Jedi Temple? Are they going to use Hayden Christensen in some capacity there? And is that an opportunity for a different variation of a Darkside Anakin? Because you have to remember that if they come out with a different version, not only are they going to get collectors that are seeking this Darkside Anakin out right now, but if it's a different variation than this, then Hot Toys will get some collectors that have this version of the Darkside Anakin that'll perhaps want a different variation of that character, especially with probably all the hype that's going to come with the trailer and first episode and rumors about the Obi-Wan series. So you do have to wonder. And that's what I think is going to happen with Anakin. So do I think that we're going to get a straight reissue of the Revenge of the Sith Anakins? Unfortunately, no, not in the short term at all. So let's go ahead and go to another figure that I get a lot of questions about. And let's see what I have next here on the screen. So yes, I'm going to bring up, this didn't even come out yet, this deluxe Boba Fett from The Mandalorian Season 2. But you do have to wonder, would Hot Toys reissue this particular deluxe set if it just winds up selling so well and it goes on wait list and all the things that we've been talking about within the community? Oh, it's so hot, let's go ahead and reissue and come up with this again real soon. And I think the answer is no. I think how they would do this, there's so many opportunities now for them to come up with different variations of Boba Fett. Look at all the variations that they've given us already of Boba Fett without even the Season 3 of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett out, and who knows what else they're going to go ahead and put Tamora Morrison in, Boba Fett wise in Disney Plus. And I think that there is an opportunity now for them to, obviously, they're going to come out with the clean version of Boba Fett. And perhaps just like, you have all these, you're going to have like 3 different versions of Mandalorian, Din Djarin. You're going to have different variations of Boba Fett. And I think that they're going to continue on that with that character. And we're not necessarily going to see this be reissued again. Now, I think that they can reissue some likeness of Tamora Morrison and likeness of this suit with a couple of future releases, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But no, I don't think get some questions on this, that they're going to reissue this anytime soon after that, or they are going to run this any differently than what they have been. Once it's done, it's done. And as far as a reissue, I think there's more of an opportunity for other ways that Boba Fett develops in that story for different variations of that character. That's how I think that is going to go. So let's go to the next figure. And yes, let's go to these versions of Boba Fett. Is it possible that Hot Toys is going to reissue the animated Boba Fett? Or the vintage color Boba Fett? Again, sure, it's possible. Do I think in the short term that this is a priority right now? No. I think, again, they're going to come out with different, not before released, not before seen variations of Boba Fett. And I think that that's what you're going to get in the short term. So, with this fetching 600 and something dollars on the market value chart, let's go to it. Where is animated Boba Fett? And it's really high right here, $610. That's going to be where it is. And with that vintage color Boba Fett, I've mentioned it in the past. I think that in time, that figure is going to continue to creep up. You got to remember, everything about Boba Fett is changing now. When that figure first was announced, I didn't think it was any way, shape, or form that was ever going to get up to where this animated Boba Fett is. I just didn't think, lightning was going to strike in the same place twice in a fashion. With this. However, now that he showed up in The Mandalorian Season 2, and now that he's got his own series, and who knows what else they're going to do, I do think that this one's going to continually to creep up. So, just saying. Let's go to another figure. So, yes, if you go to the market value chart, we already do have a release of Bespin Luke, DX07, the one with the Vader head sculpt, 650 and steady, and the one without it, 600 and steady. So, with this particular figure, this would be not a reissue, but it would be a whole new figure. They'd be coming out with a different version, a different, now updated version, updated head sculpt of the Bespin Luke. They've already teased this twice. So, obviously a lot of questions on this because this, DX set fetches a lot of money, obviously, within the secondary market. I've talked about this before, and I think that the thing that you have to consider with this particular figure, and they have teased it and come up with this prototype at, 2 different times, why haven't they officially announced it? Again, you have this Snowspeeder Pilot Luke, which is up on pre-order right now. And this is a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous looking figure. I absolutely cannot wait to get this figure. But even when it was first announced, it wasn't raking real high up there like the Ahsokas or the Deluxe Boba Fett. It just wasn't. And it's just been regularly down on the best when you sort it out best-selling wise at Sideshow. Now, do I think that this figure is going to be very highly sought after, and once it gets close to, hey, get rumors is going to start, they're going to release this, and here's the final production photo. Sure, it's Luke. It's going to go insane. Absolutely. But, right now, it's not killing it, and this is a priority. This is announced. This is on the schedule. It's officially announced. And you know that they're going to be coming out with the Mandalorian Season 2 version of Luke Skywalker. So are they going to go, and that's going to be on pre-order the same time as this, and I think it's fine. But are they going to go ahead and put, a Bespin Luke, Empire Strikes Back, to compete with this Snowspeeder Pilot Luke right now? So you have to wonder where it seemed that, this was a priority because they've teased it a couple of times. You have to wonder, did that priority change? And now this is more into the future. I don't have the answer for that. It wouldn't surprise me if they did this year or even soon officially announce this figure. I think it'd be fantastic. But it also wouldn't surprise me if we didn't get the official announcement this year. Would I get discouraged and think, oh, they're not going to do it? No. I just think that they have other priorities right now, but this will be forthcoming. Have patience. You don't have to go out there and buy the DX07. I do really believe that this one is coming. So let's go ahead and move on from Luke and the items here within the market value chart. We already discussed some of the figures also within the biggest movers section. I'll continue to put out some episodes where we discuss some of the potential for reissues or different versions of figures that are fetching really high prices within the secondary market. But let's go ahead and move on to what characters for Star Wars is Hot Toys likely to release next. So I think there's still going to be a big emphasis on The Mandalorian. Obviously, they emphasize the original trilogy, the prequels. I think there's going to be a large emphasis on the Clone Wars as well. And obviously, with the upcoming content, there could be some figures with the Bad Batch. There can be some figures with some of the other upcoming content. But, that's coming, the Book of Boba Fett later this year, and then next year, other series as well. But, in the very short term, I think, like the ones I've mentioned, The Mandalorian, the prequels, the Clone Wars, some original trilogy. Let's go ahead and start off, though, with what could be next for The Mandalorian. So for the first figure in The Mandalorian that I think it is very possible that they could go ahead and surprise us with, that would be Quill. Now, Quill was very prominent within Season 1, was in several episodes, and was very important to the development of the whole storyline. Now, by himself, I'm not too sure if it would be very strong, depending on the price point, though. But I think if you pack Quill in with some great accessory characters, like for instance, if you added a couple of Jawas, perhaps with the egg, that would be very good, and an opportunity for Hot Toys to correct, to go in the right direction with the Jawa, because the Jawa and the Gonk droid release was not exactly didn't go over too well with a lot of the reviews. So this is an opportunity to improve upon the Jawa and give us a Mandalorian version of the Jawa or Jawas. That would sure be nice. And that would sure be a great set. And I don't think that this would be, would do any less than the Tusken Raider if you gave us a Jawa or two and gave us with Quill. I think it would do very, very well. Or is it even possible that they could give us Quill with a Mythosaur? Now, the Mythosaur might be too big, but maybe there's a way that could come with, Quill and a Mythosaur. Sign me up. I'll buy it. Maybe throw in one Jawa with that. But I do think that, right now the Mandalorian is hot, and I think there is some, priorities on issuing Mandalorian figures. And again, Quill is not exactly, Nick Nolte did a great job, with this portrayal in Season 1. And sure, the character is gone now, but the character was in a lot from Season 1. And I think that there are some collectors, including myself, with all the Mandalorian figures that we're collecting, that this would be a nice addition to the Mandalorian collection. Now, it would depend on the price point, or if the price point was higher, what is it going to come with? Again, is it going to come with a Mythosaur? Or is it going to come, can it come with some Jawas? Perhaps an opportunity. I think that this could be a potential for a surprise announcement. I wouldn't be surprised if this happened. Let's go to another figure from The Mandalorian that I think is possible. So, obviously, I think we all know that they're coming out with the cleaned up version, when Boba cleaned up his armor from The Mandalorian Season 2. And the question is when, and we've already talked about that in a prior episode. But I want you to take a look. I want you to consider a couple of trends recently. Not only did Hot Toys give us a 2-pack deluxe version of Boba Fett with the Tamora Morrison figure and the worn out version of Boba Fett, they also just announced a 2-pack for DC from the Snyder Cut of the Justice League with the Nightmare Batman and the Dark Suit Superman. So is it possible that Hot Toys could officially announce a 2-pack of this Boba Fett with Fennec Shand? And to boot, maybe give us this throne there in the background. Chew on that for a second. That would be an awesome 2-pack. And can you imagine if the only way that you can get the Fennec was with the deluxe set? And then, they offered the Boba Fett by himself, or maybe vice versa, or maybe just the 2-pack. There's a lot of possibilities here. We were talking about, are they going to give us a Tamora Morrison head sculpt, or a different head sculpt, and how that would affect or even bring up the desire of the Boba Fett worn out armor deluxe set that we've been talking about. But when you consider that they could come out with another 2-pack with Fennec and perhaps even this throne, boy, that's real interesting. Would it surprise me? No. I think that this would be another epic release and, quite frankly, a must-buy for some collectors. I mean, what do you think? Let me know. But if they come out with this throne, and how epic this was after the credits in the season finale, something to chew on. All right, so let's go to another figure. And we've talked about this before. And I set this up earlier in the show with Boba Fett. So, okay, we talked about this, so I'm not going to stay on it real long. But this is an opportunity, once they come out with the Boba Fett next June 2022, and the deluxe set with the Tamora Morrison figure, once that comes out, is there an opportunity for Hot Toys to go ahead and use this armor and this paint again for the worn out armor? And the answer is yes, you can use it with this particular character. Remember, Cobb Vanth was only in one episode, but it was a rather long episode. And Timothy Oliphant had a lot of screen time within that episode. And so I think it was, and it was an epic moment when he walked into the saloon there, or what it was. It was like, oh my goodness, Boba Fett lost a lot of weight, or something, to that effect. And if this character shows up again in the book of Boba Fett, is that really far-fetched? He's back on Tatooine. So, with Fennec, I think it's possible and an opportunity for Hot Toys to give us this armor again, but with Cobb Vanth. So, do I think that this is out of the realm of possibility? No, I actually think, personally, this is money for Hot Toys. And yes, they would get my money with this figure. This would be one that I would want. Let's go ahead now and go to another figure. So I think here, what we're going to do now is get out of the Mandalorian. And let's go ahead and go into prequels and Clone Wars. What would be next coming up? A lot of people are wondering, is it this figure? Is it that figure? What's the next Clone Wars release? Are they going to come out with another prequels figure? Okay. I think a lot of collectors want this version of Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is hot, coming out its own series. You already have Qui-Gon Jinn from the Phantom Menace. You already got DX-16, DX-17 Maul. How good would this do? I think that this would do tremendous. And I think that this would be a smart announcement by Hot Toys. And I think that this makes sense. Compared, when you correlate it with the figures that they've already come out with, like the Qui-Gon and Darth Maul, this would make sense. So I think that this, if they're going to come out, and they are going to come out with more prequel figures, I think that this has to be on the list as a strong possibility. For sure. Another figure? We've talked about this. So not to belabor it, but whenever you come out with a Jedi, especially such a prominent Jedi as Mace Windu, and you have all those other Jedi already, this is a no-brainer. Is this going to do, is this going to be above or below the Tusken Raider? I think you know the answer to that. So this would certainly be a wise choice. And again, they already have a Samuel L. Jackson head sculpt. I don't think it'd be very difficult to, rework it to this. So the next figure that I think that could come out for the prequels, and I've talked about this before, is Grievous. Now, we had some good discussion on the live stream, our first live stream, when we had Mike from the Action Figure Cave and Nate from Geeking Out on about this in particular figure. And yes, there are some price concerns with this. This could be a very high price point, the size of it. But I think at the end of the day, though, this would be a very highly sought after figure. And you have to wonder if some collectors, despite, if the price point was decent, just like that some collectors buy the quarter scale Darth Vader, Boba Fett, the Mandalorian that's up on pre-order, the life-size Grogu that comes in a big box. So I think that they could do this. And I think if they engineered this in a certain way, Hot Toys, and they're pretty savvy in the way that they did it, wow, I think this would be an absolute buy for me. And again, not only relevant for the prequels, but a relevant character in the Clone Wars. So, it crosses over. So I think a great opportunity here. Would I be surprised if Hot Toys officially announced a General Grievous? No. I think that this makes sense if it's engineered and priced properly. Let's go ahead and go to another figure. And they've already teased Kit Fisto. And whether it's Kit Fisto, Plo Koon, so on and so forth, a lot of these characters are in the Clone Wars. They cross over into different sectors. So when you have Ahsoka coming out, and you have the 501st coming out, and you've got Clone Wars Maul coming out, and you got Kenobi from the Clone Wars coming out, and Anakin from the Clone Wars coming out, and this coming out. These, in particular, figures not only work for the prequels, but they make sense, for sure, as well. So, whether it's really any of these Jedi, Kit Fisto, Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, bring them on. I think these would be great. And so I wouldn't be disappointed if these were the next figures that they announced. But I think when you look at the prequels, and besides Padme or Queen Amidala, I mean, some of these Jedi, or Grievous, or Mace, or Obi-Wan, make a lot of sense. Certainly an Emperor. You do have the Emperor that's going to be the Emperor that's in the Bad Batch. And you have the Emperor that's it's I would think the Emperor's going to show up in the Obi-Wan series. And so is that an opportunity? Is it possible that Hot Toys would give us a Revenge of the Sith type of Emperor Palpatine? I think that would be great. So, and that crosses over. So I think that there's two things going on hand in hand here when you have the prequels and the Clone Wars and some of the upcoming content like the Bad Batch, and even how they're mixing in some of the Clone Wars characters and Rebels characters, in upcoming content, like with the Mandalorian, series. So I think that these are logical and figures when you're trying to build a Clone Wars collection, you're trying to build a prequels collection, figures that make sense. So let's go ahead and go to perhaps a surprise announcement. And I've talked about this before, and I wouldn't be totally surprised on this. But this, I'm bringing this figure up again only as an example, because there are other figures that they could do this with and surprise us with. But here's Bail Organa again. Bail Organa is in the prequels. Bail Organa is in Rebels. Bail Organa is in Clone Wars. Bail Organa is in Rogue One. And is it possible that Jimmy Smits can make an appearance in the upcoming Andor series? Or is it possible that Bail Organa can be in the Bad Batch? You have to wonder, with all these collections that we're trying to build, is this really so far-fetched? And I think in some regards, it is. But I also think that this would be an opportunity where you can attract collectors from, you know, if it makes an appearance in Bad Batch or the Andor series or Rogue One or the Clone Wars or Rebels or the prequels, and you're seeing this figure, it's like, oh, well, yeah, I am collecting, this from this series, and I'm collecting from this movie, and this would be, if I'm sitting with a team of people and I'm trying to come up with new releases, you're like, you know what, this could attract a certain amount, and so would I be totally shocked on this because of the way that this character crosses over? No, not at all. And the reason I'm bringing this up again is not necessarily even for Bail Organa, but what are some of your figures or characters that you think that this kind of works with as well? Let me know what you think. And so we're going to go ahead and move on to the last couple over here before we close the show. So this would be very interesting. We talked about C-3PO before, with all the 2-packs that we've been talking about. What if they came out with a Chewbacca and C-3PO 2-pack from The Empire Strikes Back? And what if they actually gave us a Chewbacca with sculpted hair? This would be very interesting, and certainly perhaps I'd be very interested to see how the prototype would be. I think Hot Toys would knock it out of the park, quite honestly. But you may even be able to attract collectors that already have a Chewbacca with the rooted hair to say, you know what, I really would like the sculpted version. And then an opportunity to get 3PO. So would I be totally surprised on this? No, I wouldn't be. Let me know what you think. And last, before we close the show, I've mentioned this before. Was this already teased in the fact that they've given us a 1/4 scale version? And with the upcoming Andor, well, not the upcoming Andor series, but with the upcoming Obi-Wan series, and even the Andor series, but more with the Obi-Wan series, I think there's an opportunity to give us Darth Vader again, and I would think that those figures are forthcoming. So I think now would be the time. You have the Empire Strikes Back version in stock at Sideshow. I do think that one is going to go on wait list very soon. And I think that now would be the time to go ahead. Hey, let's go ahead and officially announce the return of the Jedi, Darth Vader, with this head sculpt. So I think that is coming. And I think that is coming this year. So that is going to go ahead and bring to a conclusion this episode of the Market Value Chart Show. Please go ahead and hit that like button if you enjoyed the content, and please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I so very much appreciate your support. Please continue to spread the word around about the Market Value Chart Show and 6scalecantina.com and the Market Value Chart. Again, your support is very much appreciated. I also wanted to bring up again that we have a brand new Facebook group. Now, this is a group now. I had the page, in the first, doing this for the first month or so. But this is a great group where we can go ahead and chat, talk about, the videos and everything Hot Toys. So I have the link within the video description below. Please go ahead and check that out and join us. Also, if you go to 6scalecantina.com, I have the link to the Facebook group right there. I also have the link to our Instagram within the video description below. Again, we're going to have our second live stream this coming Saturday, March 27th, 6 p.m. Eastern. 6 p.m. Eastern this Saturday. March 27th, we're going to have Mike from the Action Figure Cave back. His link to his channel is within the video description below. We're going to have Nate from Geekin' Out back. The link to his channel is within the video description below. So looking forward to chatting with you all and hanging out with you there. Hope to see you all there on our second live stream. Remember, many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view. See you next time.